The crew stirred awake in their zero-G bunks. Straps unfastened with a soft click, hair floated in lazy arcs, and breakfast packets drifted toward the ceiling like tiny satellites. The lights flickered slightly as a maintenance drone whizzed past, scattering a few stray napkins into slow-motion arcs.
Why is my cereal orbiting my head?
Gravity isn't mandatory today, apparently.
Careful! That coffee packet's got thrusters, apparently.
I just wanted toast. Why does everything float away the moment I look at it?
Theo lunged for the cereal, missing completely. One floating square bounced off a wall and smacked gently against his helmet. Coffee droplets drifted past his visor like tiny liquid planets. Nira twirled gracefully to catch a glowing fruit cube and tossed it back to him, laughing at his flailing. Xylo hovered nearby, twisting upside down, eyes wide, clearly enjoying the human's clumsy ballet.
Even they're laughing at me now.
At least you're entertaining someone.
After finally wrangling breakfast, the crew floated toward the suit lockers. The corridor's soft lights reflected off the pristine white walls, illuminating small floating tools and stray coffee droplets. Every few seconds, a wrench or a floating data pad would drift past, and the humans had to twist and reach like slow-motion acrobats to avoid collisions. Padded utility suits hung from the racks, reinforced at every joint, with life support tubing snaking along their backs. They looked less like fashion statements and more like survival armor.
Why is this glove always stuck?
Maybe it's plotting against you.
You look like a porcupine in that thing. Seriously, watch the panels.
Theo attempted a heroic twist to free his glove, but only ended up spinning midair. A nearby wrench lazily brushed past his helmet. Nira, floating smoothly, caught it mid-flight and flicked it toward Milo with perfect timing. Xylo, hovering upside down on the ceiling, mimicked Theo's clumsy movements, performing a slow somersault that ended with him smirking directly at the humans.
This one is hopeless. Truly hopeless.
At least he makes it entertaining.
Floating toolkits rattled gently as the humans navigated further down the corridor. A stray wrench clanked into a locker, and Theo spun to grab it, only to send a floating data pad drifting past Milo. Coffee droplets formed tiny arcs in the corridor, catching light like miniature stars. Even the emergency lighting flickered gently, adding to the chaos. Nira laughed as Theo tried to regain balance, her arms gracefully catching floating cubes of glowing fruit. Milo muttered something about the suit's joint stiffness, while Xylo swirled effortlessly in zero-G, tapping a data pad for fun before letting it float away. Every movement looked effortless on the alien, chaotic on the humans. After breakfast, the crew floated toward the maintenance bay for some light micro-repairs. Small toolkits, floating drones, and a few stray fruit cubes drifted gently through the air, turning the bay into a chaotic obstacle course. The humans had to twist, reach, and tumble gracefully to navigate the drifting objects.
I swear these tether lines move when I'm not looking.
They only move when you're about to grab them. Classic Theo.
Careful with that drone. It's got more momentum than you do.
Why is every floating cube a trap today?
Tessa lunged for a floating fruit cube and ended up spinning upside down, laughing uncontrollably. Nira twirled around a mini satellite to catch a loose toolkit midair, flicking it to Milo with perfect timing. Theo tried to grab a floating tether line but overshot, colliding gently with a wall panel. Xylo hovered nearby, watching every move, his arms crossed as if grading their zero-G finesse. Lumo floated above, nudging stray tools toward the humans, assisting with silent amusement. The humans navigated a gentle storm of floating objects, each action a tiny ballet of effort and chaos. Even with all the mishaps, they moved with determination, laughter, and a hint of pride. Xylo tilted his head, eyes following Theo's exaggerated spins, and let out a low chuckle.
Zero-G is supposed to make life easier, not more dangerous.
Danger is just another form of fun.
I've watched them navigate chaos for weeks, yet they never failed to amuse me.
Nira floated sideways, twirling to grab a protein paste tube midair, tossing it back to Theo just in time for him to nearly collide with Milo. Tessa glided upside down, catching a floating utensil and laughing at Theo's chaotic attempts to maintain control. Each movement created miniature waves of floating objects, a zero-G storm of breakfast leftovers and tools.
Xylo and Lumo begin a playful game, swatting floating items toward humans and then back to each other. Coffee droplets spud in arcs like miniature planets. Theo lunged to catch one, missing spectacularly and colliding softly with the wall. Milo caught a fruit cube mid-spin, while Naira rolled gracefully to intercept another floating object. Xylo gave a triumphant smirk, clearly proud of the humans' comedic performance. By the end of their corridor adventure, humans were sticky with floating breakfast remnants, tools were scattered throughout the space, and the aliens floated lazily, satisfied with the chaos they'd created. Each human had their own battle scars, a smear of protein paste on the visor, a glowing fruit cube stuck to a glove, coffee droplets clinging to the suit. Naira laughed softly at Theo, who looked exhausted but secretly proud of surviving another round.
Next time, we're labeling every floating object with a name tag.
Then what? The aliens will start naming them too.
Even with names, they'd still make chaos an art form.
The crew floated toward the maintenance bay, a small workshop filled with hovering drones, floating toolkits, and many satellites. Every movement had to be deliberate. A careless twist could send a wrench spinning across the room. The walls glowed softly from embedded lights, reflecting off metallic surfaces and illuminating floating coffee droplets. Theo reached for a floating wrench, spun midair, and narrowly missed a drifting drone. Milo, floating sideways, caught it expertly and tossed it toward Naira. Xylo hovered nearby, mimicking Theo's flailing movements with exaggerated spins, clearly amused by the human chaos.
Why does every tool float just out of reach?
Maybe the tools are judging your coordination.
Or they know you're an entertainer, not a mechanic.
Nira pointed toward a tether line floating lazily across the bay. Theo attempted to grab it, but ended up spinning in a slow barrel roll. A floating fruit cube bounced off his shoulder and drifted past Xylo, who tapped it back gently, as if correcting the human's mistakes. Tessa tried to catch a floating utensil, missed, and ended up spinning upside down herself, laughing as she floated past Milo. Floating coffee droplets glimmered in arcs across the bay like tiny liquid stars. Theo lunged to catch one, overshot, and drifted toward the wall. Milo tried to intercept a floating drone with exaggerated care, while Nira effortlessly snatched a stray tool and passed it to Tessa. Xylo and Lumo playfully nudged items back and forth, creating a tiny zero-G obstacle course. By the end of the session, tools, food remnants, and small drones were scattered throughout the bay. Humans had minor bumps and smears of coffee and protein paste, but all wore smiles. Xylo hovered lazily above, clearly satisfied with his entertainment contribution, while Lumo swirled a floating wrench in playful circles.
I think I'd prefer chasing cereal to this.
He'll never escape zero-G chaos, Theo.
Humans and chaos, eternal companions.
After the maintenance bay chaos, the humans decided to burn off extra energy with an improvised zero-G sport. Holographic balls and floating markers drifted unpredictably through the corridor, bouncing off walls, ceiling, and floating tools. Theo lunged repeatedly, flailing while Naira twisted effortlessly to intercept each object. Aliens Xylo and Lumo glided along walls and ceiling, swatting balls with exaggerated ease, clearly amused by human clumsiness.
I think I scored. Or hit the wall?
Both, probably.
One day, you might even pass the tutorial.
Inside Theo's helmet, floating balls drifted unpredictably, bouncing off his visor. His gloved hands gripped the controls of a small zero-G stabilizer as he tried to intercept a ball. Xylo swiveled upside down from the ceiling, nudging one ball playfully. Every motion felt exaggerated, every failed attempt a slow-motion comedy. From behind Theo and Nira, Nira's movements were fluid and effortless, catching each floating snack or holographic ball with finesse. Theo flailed nearby, arms spinning wildly. Xylo and Lumo hovered playfully, nudging items toward the humans and flicking balls back, transforming the ship's interior into a comedic zero-G obstacle course. A glowing training orb spun slowly, reflecting corridor lights like a miniature sun. A wrench tumbled lazily, nudged by Xylo's fingers. Theo reached desperately, missed, and collided softly with a floating panel. Nira snatched another orb mid-spin, tossing it gently to Milo. The corridor resembled a choreographed zero-G dance, except only chaotic and out of sync. Xylo hovered lazily above, clearly satisfied with the human's performance.